Miller, and welcome to the I Love CVille Show. Thank you kindly for joining us. We are live in downtown Charlottesville, Virginia. Our audience, however, is Central Virginia-wide, Commonwealth-wide, country-wide, and worldwide on the I Love CVille Network. The Monday edition of our shows are busy because of the news that accumulates over the weekend, which we like to relay to you. You'll see Judah Wickower in a matter of moments. Judah Wickower is the jack of all wits, a gentleman who I think is blossoming in front of a camera and on a microphone. A guy that has a voracious appetite for reading. He's followed the news locally even more since he's been on the camera. And frankly, I've enjoyed hearing Judah pontificate on a number of topics that mean something to him. Today, we'll talk about no more free COVID tests from the government. As of this Friday, the federal government will stop sending free COVID tests to Americans. The Biden administration let us know that over the weekend. If Congress provides funding, we will resume distribution of free tests through covidtest.gov, but until then, we believe reserving the remaining tests for distribution later this year is the best course of action. That's the Biden administration. They're
saving them for flu season.
That's what they're doing, of course. Let's go to the two-shot. We'll welcome you. If you're talking, we want to see that face on camera. That's exactly what they're doing. Saving it for the winter. And they want to stockpile the test in the winter.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that on the show, the cause and effect. We will also chatter today what could be a potential rent crisis. And the rent crisis, Judah, is not for residential. It's the commercial rents.
Yeah.
We're starting to see businesses locally in Charlottesville falling behind on rent. You may be following it on some of the Reddit boards. We're not going to get into rumor or hearsay on this show. I know a lot of you read the Reddit boards and the chatter that's out there about falling behind on rent for an established brand in the community. I don't get into hearsay or rumors, especially when they potentially negatively portray an entrepreneur in this community. I also want to chatter on today's show. Jack Jouett Middle School getting renamed Journey Middle School. I want to chatter colleges not requiring SAT tests, a lot of them. I mean, there was a time where the SAT test was the gold standard of getting into college.
Yeah, that was pretty big.
And the concept was this test is the same test everyone in the country takes, so it's an even playing field that can determine an outcome or a rating or a grade.
I don't know if that necessarily follows, but
I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
The wealthy kids who have access to tutors and prep books and classes and seminars and can afford to take the SAT test a handful of times undoubtedly have an advantage over the kids taking the test for the first time without tutoring help. Unfortunately, often the kids that have the tutoring, the test pamphlets, the books, and can afford to take the test more than once are the white kids.
Yeah. There's also the fact that just, taking it away from color consideration, I think that not all people are the same. Not all people test the same. There are certain people that do great at tests. There are certain people that do better at different.
Critical thinking, essay writing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not multiple choice questions.
Yeah.
I understand the fatal flaw of SATs and ACTs. I understand that SATs and ACTs are undoubtedly weighed in favor of kids and parents that have the money
and the time
to take the classes, the seminars, the one-on-one instruction, and the test books.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
And pay for tutors.
I'm curious of how SATs and ACTs being deprioritized will affect tutoring companies.
Yeah.
A lot of the tutoring companies specialize in SAT and ACT prep. I'm curious to see how SATs and ACTs will impact colleges from a diversity standpoint by no longer prioritizing the tests. And I'm going to give you the stats. I mean, it's an astronomical amount of, for example, in Virginia, 52 colleges and universities currently offer test optional admissions, according to the nonprofit National Center for Fair and Open Testing. That number includes all 15 of the state's four-year public institutions, that's UVA, as well as the University of Richmond and Virginia Union University. Here are the states with the most colleges offering test optional admissions for this fall. New York has 171 colleges or universities that allow students a chance to get into the school in the fall. 171 in New York that do not require SATs or ACTs. California has 138, Pennsylvania 129, Texas 93, Ohio 85, Florida 76, Massachusetts 70, North Carolina 62, Illinois 59, and Virginia 52. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Virginia's 10th out of 50 states with the most amount of colleges and universities that do not require the SAT or the ACT to get admitted into the university. The logical follow-up question, and I'm curious if your take is, will that make the University of Virginia more diverse? We've openly said that SATs and ACTs are skewed or benefit, or the scales of justice are tilted toward wealthy kids with means, often white, that can afford these resources. So the logical correlation would be, if the ACT and SAT is being deprioritized, will we see universities like UVA that aren't diverse become more diverse because of this?
Theoretically, I would say probably, but without knowing what metric they're going to go to, it's kind of hard to say. I mean, they could be looking at factors that are, nearly identical to how people would place on a test like that. So who knows?
The interesting thing is, regardless of the gentrifying or the equity, the diversity that comes with deprioritizing the test, it's still expensive as all get out. It's still expensive as all get out. So if we're making a correlation to wealth and advantages on the SAT, wouldn't that same correlation would be with universities and colleges? It's expensive to go there, which is going to prevent the diversity potentially from happening. If we're already seeing a correlation with, generally, a lot of the white kids are taking the SAT prep courses, doing the prep books, the tutoring, and the test multiple times because they can afford it. Isn't that same correlation made with cost of tuition? How expensive it is to go to the schools? Travis Hackworth, Danny O'Day, what you think? Danny O'Day, SAT stands for Scholastic Aptitude Test. Did you know that?
I may have some number of decades ago, but I probably couldn't have told you that.
Scholastic Aptitude Test, if memory serves correct. That's what it stands for. So we'll talk about that today on today's show. We will also chitter-chatter on today's show. Panera Bread, friend of the program, Kelly Jackson. She's the owner of 17 Panera Bread locations. There's 2 Panera Breads in...
Aren't they in New York?
Was it upstate New York? Did you read it?
I glanced at it.
2 Panera Breads that are in upstate New York that are rolling out artificial intelligence technology in their drive-thrus. So what does that mean? That means when you... excuse me. That means when you go through a drive-thru at 2 Panera Breads in upstate New York, your order will be taken by a computer in a test of AI technology at these locations. They'll test the accuracy and the ability to handle demand through these 2 locations. Panera has 45% of Panera's more than 2,000 locations have drive-through lanes. So look, let's cut to the chase. Panera Bread is top of the pyramid when it comes to financial resources to innovate and to roll out that innovation into their locations. Chipotle is also at the top of the pyramid. These are huge brands. Yeah. Chipotle, for example, is creating a venture fund. It has created a venture fund. And the Chipotle Venture Fund, they are exploring ways to bring innovation and technology to various Chipotles. Currently, Chipotle has robots seasoning and salting their chips as opposed to people. And Chipotle has also indicated that soon robots will be filling, stuffing your tacos, your burrito bowls, and your burritos. And they're doing this because of labor shortages. And the cost of labor is becoming astronomical. So when the Panera Breads of the world and the Chipotles of the world are doing AI and robots, and they're considering technology that is vast and robust and well ahead of the mom and pops, you see where the market is heading. I mentioned this last week, the week before. One of the traditions my son and I have on either Saturday or Sunday is I get him some breakfast. And right now he's enamored with the Chick-fil-A minis, the little mini Chick-fil-A breakfast sandwiches. There's 4 of them.
Okay.
He's also very much enamored and in love with the sausage biscuit and the hash brown from McDonald's. We tried
Some
McDonald's
good stuff.
again this weekend. It's good stuff, yeah. The drive-thru was really long, like 12 cars in the drive-thru. I had somewhere to be. So we went inside to the restaurant on Pantops. There's no one working the cashier. You can't find any employees outside of the ones on the back of the house or at the drive-thru. If you want to go into the inside of McDonald's on Pantops, you order through one of 3 kiosks. And then someone that's working the drive-thru hands you the food next to the old register. So the staffing at McDonald's Pantops is people at the drive-thru and people making the food. The dining room is almost an afterthought. You're ordering through a kiosk.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to see how quickly this makes it to Main Street, Preston Avenue, the corner, the downtown mall, High Street, Route 29.
I would guess it's going to be a long time
Me too.
before mom and pop and small businesses
Have AI,
start
robots.
bringing that in.
I agree 100% with you. The reason I ask this question is the mom and pops are struggling to pay rent right now.
And it's not just rent. I believe
Labor, cost of goods, it's everything.
Everything. And we already know that, not everybody believes this, but we already know that the margins on food and beverage are pretty minuscule.
Single-digit percentage.
And so where Best Buy and Amazon can add 30, 40, 50 cents to every order without ruffling too many feathers. When your local restaurant does that, it's probably not even going to help them that much.
No.
And everybody's going to complain, and the loss of even a small amount of business, it could be
crippling.
Far more crippling than even the price increases that they're dealing with.
Yes, Danny O'Day, SAT did stand for that at one time. Scholastic Aptitude Test is what it stood for at one time. I understand that they could not get rid of the SAT moniker because it's such a fixture in our vernacular, but SAT at one time stood for Scholastic Aptitude Test. I know this because I have family that is at the top of the food chain with SAT. And by top of the food chain, I mean really at the top of the food chain. So here we have this collision of crap again. And the collision of crap is this. The local restaurants that we love can't afford the labor, can't afford the cost of goods, and we're about to relay to you that many are behind on rent.
Yeah.
There's many locally in Charlottesville that are behind on rent, guys.
I'm sure.
I could rattle off 50 easily of some of the most established brands that you would know that are behind on rent right now. And landlords locally are asking themselves this: do I evict the tenant and risk the space staying vacant for long? Or do I just take a sliver or a portion of the rent and keep the tenant in place and see if I can wait out this recession to better times? If I was a landlord, we have 24 tenants. Keeping the tenant in place is the plan. You have empty storefronts breed other empty storefronts. So if you're a landlord in a shopping center like Stonefield, The last thing you want is empty storefronts because that creates other empty storefronts. It's the whole broken window philosophy. Rudy Giuliani made a big deal about this when he was the mayor of the Big Apple.
Yeah.
Rudy Giuliani made a commitment to fix broken windows in Manhattan. And he did it because he realized broken windows breed other broken windows.
Yeah. Nobody wants to stick around in a neighborhood where you're looking at broken windows and empty businesses.
So, again, I got a list on the phone here with anywhere between 50 or 100 businesses locally that are behind rent-wise. A lot who have reached out for help or are considering selling their business. You're going to see more businesses hit the market in the very, very near future. Very near future. You're going to have more businesses hitting the market locally. Established businesses. Established ones.
Mm-hmm.
Get ready and giddy up. The question I ask the viewers and listeners is this, and it's so unfortunate that this happens.
40% of small businesses are having trouble paying their full rent.
40% of small businesses currently are struggling to pay full rent. That's a national survey done by Alignable. Here's the conundrum. You got the Chipotles and the Paneras and the McDonald's, just to name a few, that have the balance sheets and the cash positions, the economies of scale, the vertical integration to roll out infrastructure and technology. And they're doing it. 180 degrees across the playing field is the mom and pops, our friends and families businesses, and they're being pinched financially more than they've ever been.
Yeah. Well, they've been pinched for two whole years plus.
Right. So we have this situation, Judah, where the Chipotles, the McDonald's, and Paneras can grab more market share because they have the money to create the resources to serve the customers. Where the locally owned business, according to Alignable in a national survey, 40% of small businesses cannot pay their rent in full. That's up 6% month over month, July versus August. And it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
Has anyone seen what the stock market has done, what the indices have done since Jerome Powell spoke at Jackson Hole with very hawkish terminology and vocabulary? They've gone in the crapper. You don't even want to look at it now. The gains that we had in July and August have been eroded. Eroded the gains in July and August. And you start looking at the calendar year, Judah, it's August 29th. So we have September, October, November, and December. 4 months left.
Yeah.
And the indices are down 25, 22, 30%, depending on which one. They aren't going to recover that by the end of the year.
Probably not.
You okay?
Yeah.
You sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's going to finish red.
Most likely.
It's yet another Darwinistic collateral damage of COVID. Education, widen the gap. Collateral damage of COVID. Food and beverage, retail, widen the gap. Mom and pop, big box brand stayed open during the pandemic. Essential, Target, Walmart.
Yeah.
Small guys, non-essential, closed.
And even the big box stores just having the bank to push through a lot of these problems, supply chain problems, employment problems, where the smaller stores really don't have much margin for error.
Yeah.
If you go 6 months without making any money, what do? You start pulling money out of your own bank account.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of them done. Many guys, this is no BS. Many of the restaurants in this community we love, the owners took home equity lines of credit against their houses.
Yeah.
Second mortgages against their homes, pulled the equity out to keep the businesses afloat. You can take out a HELOC once. Maybe you can find a banker to give you a second one. But when that runs dry, your last lifeline is gone.
Along with some stored wealth.
Yeah. Their biggest driver of wealth is their house. That's why you're seeing these guys choose to sell. And more are coming.
Yeah.
Get ready. More are coming. So a lot to cover on today's program. We'll also chatter Italian subs. I think Anna's has got the best Italian sub in town. We got Jim Hingley, the attorney, the Albemarle County, fabulous attorney, Commonwealth's attorney of Albemarle County, who's chiming in on the best Italian sub. I love when Jim Hingley watches the program. He has sent me an impressive comment on Twitter DM about this. We'll talk about Jim Hingley. I love you, Jim Hingley. We got to get you back on the program, my friend. What his favorite Italian sub is today. We will also chatter what we think is going to be a super cool event, a Thursday music series at the Clifton. Starts this Thursday. Coda and Marie will kick things off. You may see Judah Wickower there. You may get him to autograph the Judah Wickower poster there.
Right.
We got to talk Jack Jouett getting renamed Journey Middle School. You want to touch on that? This was in NBC 29. Here's my beef with this stuff, okay? And I think I've covered this well. Look, Jack Jouett has a sketchy past. In the late 1700s, Jack Jouett owned slaves.
I mean, that's not a sketchy past, though.
That's a sketchy past for me.
Okay, but...
The excuse of everyone's doing it, so I'm going to do it, is not a viable answer.
I agree.
Hence the reason why slavery ended.
Yeah.
Because it took a few alpha dogs who had strong character, had vision, had thick skin, didn't mind getting bombarded, lambasted, murder attempts, whatever it may be. But it took a few leaders to say, hey, owning other people's terrible. And once a few people started saying, hey, owning people's nasty, we should be doing this is horrible, guess what happened?
It took off.
Because why?
Because it was right.
Because it was right. It was horrible, it's nasty, and we shouldn't be owning people.
Yeah.
Okay? So I understand schools and rebranding. What I said last week, what I said the week before, and I stand by my comments. I do not comprehend and I do not understand rebranding schools before you fill your bus driver fleet.
Yeah.
That's my beef. Hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on a rebranding instead of paying bus drivers to drive tin cans to get kids to school. I have no problem with Journey Middle School. I'm glad they went away from Jack Jouett. Jack Jouett owned slaves in the late 1700s. Okay? You rebrand it. But good night. Pay the drivers so they can get the kids to school, then rebrand the school. Your priorities are not in order.
Yeah.
Am I missing something here?
No.
You agree?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it's
definitely priorities.
It's backwards thinking.
Yeah.
It's thinking to appease perception as opposed to thinking to appease practicality.
Yeah, not to mention doing this at the tail end of 2 years of pandemic, when everything is just messed up. And you're right, priorities. You're making this a priority over, keeping your school in good order, paying teachers, paying bus drivers. It's just... It doesn't make sense. It's tone deaf, and I feel like it's the kind of thing that could wait 6 months or a year.
Right. Just wait. Jamie Turner. My granddad is a carpenter and is currently building out a restaurant. He told me yesterday that the owner requested them to build a door that could fit their robot through because they are planning to have a few robot servers. It's a mom and pop shop. And that's all I can say at this point.
Wow.
I love it. I wonder what the cost is for a robot to be a server at a restaurant is. Like, here's the question. Here's my question with the robots in the restaurants, okay? A lot of times with point of sale systems, POSs, point of sale systems, you are leasing,
right,
renting the infrastructure.
Kind of like what we, not exactly, but kind of like what we were talking about with the betting machines, and how they were basically leasing these machines out to little gas stations.
You're talking about the gambling parlor, the gambling machines, the slot machines.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's generally how a lot of this works. We'll take the point of sale, the POSs, the point of sale systems. You lease them. Leasing them may not be financially the best thing as opposed to owning them, but the advantage you have with leasing them is...
if they break, you don't have to worry about fixing it yourself.
There you go. There you go. Judah Wickhauer's a smart man. You lease the point of sale because you have a maintenance contract with the lease. You buy the point of sale and you own it outright. Sure, you don't have a monthly payment. Mm-hmm. But does anyone know how to repair a toast system or an Aloha system? Or if the hardware with your toast system breaks, you know what you're just going to end up doing?
Buying a new one.
Buying a new one.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take that same mentality and apply it to robots. How much is a freaking robot server? Does anyone know how much a robot server costs? I have no idea. I generally have no idea. Do you?
I have no idea either. I'll look it up.
Travis Hackworth says, what is a BellaBot robot server? The bots, which sell for about $10,000 each, have been programmed to recognize each of the restaurant's layouts and tables. And now he shares the link. Travis Hackworth in Danville's making the program better. I'm going to respond to this and say, Travis, let's just use his number. Travis is a smart man.
I'm also seeing some other stuff. There's a Maitre D food service robot that
how much is that?
Runs about $19,000.
Okay, so $18,000 or $19,000.
Then there's a smart humanoid service robot running $65K.
Okay, so here's the question I have. Judah, here's the question I have for you. We just talked about the mom and pops not being able to afford rent. We just talked about the mom and pops taking HELOCs and second mortgages to make it through the pandemic. Would you say $10,000 for a robot is a lot?
I would say it is a lot, but if you think about it in terms of
labor,
saving up,
yeah, you're going to make money on the labor
prior to opening up a business, and then just saying, look, we're gonna save X the first year of business by not hiring, John, Susie, and Pablo, and you spend that money on a robot server, I guess.
But the existing one that can barely pay rent can't fork out $10,000, $18,000, $65K for a robot?
Because they've been getting hit for 2 years.
They can get hammered. Yeah. So here's the follow-up question I have for you. Now we have an idea how much the robot servers cost. You're going to see two business models start to emerge. The first business model is buy the robots for your restaurant from us. And the second business model is rent the robots for your restaurant from us. Mm-hmm. And if you rent them, you're going to get a maintenance contract. If you buy them, you're going to have a little less maintenance provided by the manufacturer.
Yeah.
If you rent them, you don't have the money up front. If you buy them, you have a huge nut up front, but they don't have the monthly moving forward.
Yeah.
So what is it going to be that mom and pops do?
I think it'll depend. Everybody's going to look at their own finances and figure out how they can, swing this if that's what they want to do.
If I'm a cash-strapped restaurant, this is what I would do. Server, not even a server. I'd have one or two front of the house personnel, one or two people tops.
Yeah.
And they are working a register where you place the order. Then they pick up the customer food from a window that's next to the kitchen. You know who does this model extremely well? Is a business that literally we just sold, Moe's Barbecue on Ivy Road. Moe's Barbecue on Ivy Road literally just sold I brought the buyer to this deal. Derek Bond bought it from Mike and Ashley Abrams. If you've been to Moe's Barbecue on Ivy Road, they have one, maybe two people when it's busy working front of the house. Someone behind the bar, someone working the register. The customer then picks up the food at the window and walks it to the table themselves. The customer is clearing the table themselves, putting the baskets on top of the trash can and the trash in the trash.
Yeah, in most cases.
In most cases. I mean, I'd like to think you and I would do that, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
most people would as well, but
right, most people as well.
There are people that sadly just don't care about anyone but themselves.
I'm the type of guy, and I don't want to speak for you, I think you're also the type of guy that not only do we clean the table, we wipe it down, and if we see trash on another table, we'd probably pick up that trash too and take it to the trash can.
Yeah.
I would do that. I'm quite confident you would as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the setup. If you're going to make it through pandemic, recession, inflation, cost of goods, labor, rent, two people up front, window, register. If you have a bar and you get your back of the house, the customer's doing a lot of the legwork.
Yeah.
I don't see the mom and pops being able to afford kiosks or robots, buy or lease.
I'm sure most won't.
But the point of the conversation is the gap between wealthy big box brands and mom and pops is widened, and you could argue is wider than it's ever been before.
Yeah. Possibly about to get a lot wider.
Would you call it a rent crisis for the small business owner?
What I call what?
A rent crisis?
I would say it's an everything crisis. I mean, rent is obviously a big part of it, and that's the part that affects whether or not they can stay there. But the problem is not just, high rent prices. That just feeds into all the other problems. I mean, what do we hear about, like chicken?
Yeah, chicken wings.
Doubling
wings.
in cost. Like, that's just an insane expense to have to eat.
Paul Hendricks, welcome to the show. I love you, Paul Hendricks. The big fundamental, Paul Hendricks, one of the best double squash players out there, Paul Hendricks. Thank you for watching. I'm concerned. I think the economy on Main Street, and Main Street is the proverbial local street in every community. The economy and the confidence on Main Street is fragile. I mean, it is fragile. Take Ace Biscuit and Barbecue that's for sale now. Brian, the owner's come on this program, Brian Ashworth.
Yeah.
He's got phenomenal food.
Yeah.
It is phenomenal barbecue at Ace Biscuit and Barbecue.
I took my parents once there, and you should have seen my dad's face. Wow.
Welcome back
this
to the States,
so good.
Jim Wickower, after a fantastic outing in, was it Honduras?
Yep, Honduras.
Jim Wickower, you embody all the qualities of a God-fearing Christian, taking your personal time to go to Honduras to help, would you say he was building or a supervisor with building the homes?
What?
You think he was he doing some building or was he doing some supervising?
No, this was a medical mission.
Oh.
And my dad was doing intake because he's one of the few people that
they're bilingual.
Yeah, that speak Spanish. So he would listen to what people were dealing with, write down like a note for the next person in line, so that when they were passed along, the person knew what the issue was, what to deal with.
A saint amongst us, Jim Wickower. Someone tell Jim Wickower we're singing his praises here.
He got home at 2:30 Sunday morning
from Honduras
and made it to church.
He made it to church on time.
Yeah,
big Jim. All right, here's what I'm going. Let's go back to Ace. He builds an epicenter on Concord Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
A brand new restaurant.
Yeah.
Liquor license.
Recently expanded.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on opening this restaurant. Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
He went from a tiny location by ProLink to Concord Avenue that has massive drive-by traffic.
Yeah.
I understand that it's just a microcosm of how fragile it is. That a guy who's local, that's talented, that we love to support, that has a kick-ass business, after spending hundreds of thousands of dollars opening a new location, grinding, busting your tail, time away from your kids and wife, now the choice is to sell.
Yeah.
And this was a business that's doing well in an established location.
Yeah.
Fragile. Fragile is how I would characterize the local economy. Fragile. Oh. And it irritates me. It irritates me when folks choose to patronize, support, and offer their dollars to the Amazons of the world.
Yeah.
Irritates me. Because what makes this community special is the eclectic nature of our merchants.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't want a community that's eclectic with its merchants, its retailers, its restaurants, look at Fredericksburg. Have you ever driven down Fredericksburg's main little drag there?
I think so.
It's a behemoth of big box brands. There's no je ne sais quoi. There's no
life.
There's no identifying characteristics of that strip. It's the same strip that you would see in any strip in this country.
Yeah.
But you go to downtown, or you go to West Main, or you go to Preston, you see identifying characteristics that are unique to Charlottesville.
Right.
And that's what makes the community special. And this national survey has identified 40% of local merchants being behind on their rent. That means their landlords have them by the short and curlies. That means the landlord now, not you, Judah, not you, Jerry, not Judah's dollars, not Jerry's dollars, not you, the viewer or listener's dollars. It's not us that determines whether the restaurant stays in business anymore. It's the landlord. It's the landlord. And eventually the landlord is going to say, guys, enough. I got to find a replacement.
And raise the rent.
They'd likely raise the rent because they lost rent for months at a time with the current tenant.
Possibly.
And when they raise the rent, who's going to be able to afford it? The big box brands. The big box brands. And that's how you have massive, maybe gentrification is not the right word, merchant gentrification, restaurant gentrification.
Yeah.
What is the more concerning aspect of the topics we've covered today? The no more free COVID tests from the government starting this Friday. I haven't gotten a COVID test for free from the government. Judah hasn't gotten a COVID test for free from the government. Travis in Danville says he has gotten a COVID test for free from the government. I haven't gotten one. If the government's not rolling out free COVID tests anymore, giving them to you anymore starting on Friday, you got to imagine folks on the financial margin that were getting free tests, that were utilizing these tests to figure out if they had COVID or not. You got to imagine the folks on the financial margin aren't going to be dropping $32 on a single test.
No, definitely not. I wouldn't.
Right? And you're not on the financial margin.
No.
A lot of people would not.
Yeah.
$32, isn't that the cost? $32.
I don't know.
They're not always accurate.
Right.
The tests. Oftentimes you have to take a few before you get an exact result. Who's going to drop $64, $96 on 3 tests?
Yeah, I've heard of people taking tests like 1-2 times a week.
Yeah.
How would you ever do that if you were actually paying for the test yourself?
Or maybe you're independently wealthy.
I'd just be like, sorry.
So if you're not getting the test anymore on Friday, again, the show stands up for the underdog. That's what we do. We showcase the best of Charlottesville and Central Virginia, and we try to champion and stand up for the underdog. Look at what we've explained on today's show. The mom and pop is losing the battle to the big box retailer. The mom and pop can't get the robots, can't get the labor, struggling with cost of goods, and 40% of small businesses are behind on rent, according to a national survey done by Alignable. The big box brands are getting the AI, they're getting the robots, they're expanding, and they're adding things like drive-thrus that are COVID safe.
Yeah.
Welcome during COVID. Now we'll take it a step further. Let's talk health. The wealthy can get the tests. They have COVID, they can quarantine because they have the tests.
Yeah.
The financial margin, those living on the financial margin are no longer getting the free tests from the government. Those tests are like $32 a pop. The world we live in, whether you want to admit this, accept this or not, is a Darwinistic fight until your death. Claw if you want to be a winner, grind if you want to come out ahead type of place. The older I get, the more I realize, and my dad has said this to me since I was a kid. He freaking drilled it into me. Life is not fair. My dad was the type of guy...
You want to know what my dad said?
Let's compare and contrast some of our dad's tendencies. My dad would be, life is not fair, suck it up, son. My dad was the dad that let me touch the hot stove. Instead of him saying, don't touch the hot stove, you'll burn yourself, I touched the
Give it a try.
I touched the hot stove twice, and I never touched the hot stove again. My dad was the guy who let you fall off the top stair to learn a lesson. Scuffed up your knee. Nothing teaches a lesson better than a little scuffed up knee and some blood running down your shin. Okay? Some folks call that tough love, a little over the top. Call it whatever the hell you want. It creates...
I call it an explanation.
It creates resiliency, toughness. It creates a willingness to face adversity and a willingness and a tenacity to overcome it. It's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. It wasn't so much for my brother. But for me, it worked fine. Your dad was...
a little more blasé, and I think joking about it. So this will make less sense to people on the East Coast. My dad used to always say, if you want fair, go to Pomona in spring.
I don't understand what that means.
There's a big fair in Pomona every spring.
Oh. Okay, so in Charlottesville, if you want fair, go to the Kmart parking lot in the summer.
Exactly.
If you want fair, go to the Kmart parking lot in the summer.
Yeah.
Danny O'Day just left a fantastic comment. He called it the dehumanization of America is what's happening now.
Yeah.
Let's take a deep dive on that. That's a fantastic comment. One of the best ones you've done, Danny O'Day. The dehumanization of the American populace or community.
Yeah.
We're seeing with COVID.
You want something, you're going to order it on an app. When you get it, it's going to be brought to you by a robot. That says a lot of it. But
you don't own stuff anymore.
Right.
You're monthly subscribing everything.
Yeah.
Stuff's getting dropped off on your doorstep. You got Grubhub and Uber Eats to deliver it to you. You're ordering through an app. You don't have to interact with any people.
Yeah. It's all paid online, so if you don't even want to go out and talk to the person that brings you your food, you can just text them and say, leave it in front of the door.
This, Americans, and this could go for any country. Let's just use America. You know what? Your name is not Judah Wickower anymore. Your name is your IP address. What is the IP address on your phone? You're not Judah Wickower. You're 176STR91842 Blue.
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
The IP address on your phone is you.
Yeah. Some people may just see it as, it's the cost of doing business. It's, the digitization of society. But, take a look at some of the worst atrocities committed on humanity in the last century. And you'll find dehumanization in all of it.
Philip Dow watching, he's the king of Scottsville. My dad, as a teenager, would say to me, you're free to go out and get in trouble and learn life. My first real lesson was with Mad Dog 2020. From that point, I grew up fast. Mad Dog 2020, malt liquor.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't mess around with Mad Dog 2020. I've had some Mad Dog 2020 nights in my life as well, Philip, and they were from what I remember. I was right there with you, my friend. I remember one of the times that I got. This is a true story. Senior year in high school, welcome back dance. I was seeing a girl that went to a different school. She was going to my welcome back dance. She went to a different school than I. We partied before the welcome back dance at a friend's house in his basement. His parents were not there. As a lot of seniors in high school, I'm not saying this is okay. I'm not championing this. I'm not pro anything. Drinking when you're underage is wrong. And drinking and driving when you're underage or any age is terrible. Okay? We're seniors in high school, we're partying, we're pre-gaming before the welcome back dance. I got turned away from the dance.
Because you were too drunk?
Yeah. Instead of picking up the phone, calling parents or whatever, the teacher said you can't come to the dance. The girl I was seeing at the time drove us back. I couldn't drive. Drove us back to the basement we were partying in. Next thing you know, we fall asleep. The parents come back. We're still asleep. They wake me up. They wake her up. They call my parents. This is like 1:30 in the morning. My parents come and pick me up. My dad is pissed. I'm talking steam shooting through his ears, his eyes.
How far did he have to drive to pick you up?
Red-faced.
At 1:30 in the morning?
Unfortunately. It was in the neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
So like 4 or 5 minutes. I've never seen him this angry. He picks me up and says, you and the current state you're in are going to go to your girlfriend's house and apologize to her mother right now. It's like 1:45 in the morning. She says, please, let's just leave this for tomorrow. My mom is sleeping. And he said, no, Jerry's going to man up and own up to what he did. I knock on the door at 1:45 in the morning. It takes like 5 or 10 minutes for her to come down the stairs. It's 1:45 in the morning. She's sleeping.
Yeah.
She's sleeping. She comes down the stairs in her bathrobe, thinks it's like God knows what, and ends up being me. When your dad finds you passed out in your friend's house, you get a little nervous, a little scared. That sobers you up real quick. So I'm sitting there apologizing. She said, you did what? With my daughter. Then she looks over in the driveway and sees my dad in the car. She goes, you know what? Thank you for apologizing. I have a feeling you have a long night and a weekend ahead of you. I wish you the best of luck, Jerry, and I hope you get to see my daughter again. Brought her daughter in, closed the door. My dad took me home. Insisted, demanded, strong-armed me into eating 3 different peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, for the sole purpose of watching me puke them up.
Now we're getting into cringe territory.
The next morning he wakes me up at 5 a.m.
Oh, man.
5 in the morning. I went to bed at 2:30, 2:45 after puking up 3 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. 5 a.m. he wakes me up. Worst headache, hangover ever. I think we were drinking Gilby's vodka. Crappy vodka. Nasty, terrible vodka. He says, you know what we're going to do from 5 a.m. until dinner time? Chop and stack firewood. This is the welcome back dance, mind you. When would the welcome back dance be during a school year?
Height of the heat.
End
summer?
of August, early September. Who needs to chop and stack firewood at the end of August and early September? It's freaking 95 degrees in Williamsburg, Virginia at the end of August and early September.
Yeah.
We chop and stack firewood from 5 a.m. till dinner time. Man. Literally, I'm vomiting the inner lining of my body out.
Damn.
We finished. We sat down for dinner. And then he looked at me. And you know what he said?
I have no idea.
Did you learn a lesson? And I said, yes. He said, what's the lesson you learned? I said, to think before I act. be mindful of the people I'm with, especially if it's a significant other, and to do things in moderation. Now, some would say I still haven't learned that lesson, but I will never forget that 24-hour period of time.
No doubt.
And that is a microcosm, a reflection of how I was raised and reared. And now as a dad, as a husband, as a parent, I ask myself often, am I going to go down that path, iron fist, or will I go down the path of, what's the alternative?
Probably shouldn't answer because I probably won't say anything nice.
A little softer, little less iron-fisted?
I mean, it'd be pretty hard to get more, to go further in that direction. I think.
I mean, what else could you be doing when you're hungover and chopping and stacking wood for like 12 hours? I mean, it's pretty brutal doing that.
I would imagine.
It's brutal doing that sober. It's brutal doing that when it's 50 degrees out. Imagine when it's 95 and 100 degree humidity and you're hungover, the worst hangover you've ever had in your life to that point.
It's pretty, bad wordy.
Is that parenting, though? Is that parenting?
Apparently, that's someone's idea of parenting.
You know, a parent's not their kid's best friend.
Never said they were.
There's a difference between a parent and a best friend.
Yeah, definitely.
Parent's not supposed to be the best friend of the kid.
Okay. You don't have to convince me.
Well, I know.
I agree.
I'm just saying. And I don't want anyone to get like a negative...
Too late.
I don't think so. I think many of them watching realized what kind of handful I was as a kid, and they realized that this is probably the only way that they could probably make it from Monday to Friday with Jerry the Terror. Because I was a terror. A bad, bad boy.
All righty then.
Jason Howard, more than a few news articles about a CO2 shortage in the U.S. As a restaurant, what does switching from syrup to cans do to your profit margins on soft drinks if you can't get CO2 canisters? Great question. That's a great question. Here's another thing that's happening. Are you guys familiar with Whippets? Are you familiar with the Cool Whip or the whipped cream that's sold at grocery stores?
I saw the article too.
Yeah. Did you send that to me?
I may have sent it to you.
Or where did I read that? So now if you want to buy...
in New York.
Is it New York?
Yeah, you got to be 21 years or older to buy whipped cream.
Did you send me that link? I'm going to go look right now. Tell the story again. Oh yeah, you did send it to me. Thank you, Judah.
In New York, you got to be 21 years or older to buy whipped cream.
In New York, if you want to buy whipped cream, you have to have a license that shows you're 21 years old or older. And if a merchant is selling whipped cream or whipped cream chargers to anyone under 21 years old, they face a fine of $250 for an initial offense and $500 for everyone thereafter. And that's because they don't want kids buying whipped cream chargers, whippets, to get messed up, to get high.
Because they come with nitrous oxide, and it's highly addictive and fairly dangerous, I think.
Extremely dangerous. I've done whippets before. I was in college. I've done whippets before. As soon as I did whippets, I fell to the ground.
Damn.
See, I swear to God. My buddy, Connecticut Dave, brought it. We did whippets with this thing, with a cracker that cracks it, and that's how you did it. Did whippets, immediately fell to the ground. If the coffee table was any closer to me, I would have hit my head on the coffee table. Did it once, never did it again. I don't need to be doing anything that as soon as I do it, I black out and crash to the ground. That is not for me.
It's insane.
That is not for me. Bill McChesney calls it the Ready Whip.
Yep. Ready Whip is one brand.
Ready Whip is one brand. 21 years old. I think that's a good move. I think that's a good move.
It's probably, I mean, really, why would anyone, like, I can kind of see it in most cases, but like if you're just going through the store and filling a shopping cart, it does seem a little bit odd. Like, I'm 19 years old. I'm
You're saying if a 19-year-old comes to the register with 20 Whippet cartridges, that's going to raise a red flag with the cashier, or it should?
Yeah, that's definitely a red flag. But say you're getting ready to host a birthday party.
The other one is
you've got paper plates and paper bowls, and you've got cups, and you've got napkins, and you've got streamers, and you got one of those flag things.
If your grocery cart has some cake and some streamers and some party hats, and then it has some Whippets, then it's less sketchy than just the person coming to the register with 27 Whippets.
Or even just a shopping cart filled with groceries, like anyone normally going to the grocery store, and you happen to pick up an apple pie, and you've got to what? You've got to wait outside for a 21-year-old to come up and ask them if they can go inside and buy you some whipped cream.
Yeah. I mean, is that the next thing that's going to happen? People are going to shoulder tap outside the grocery store for Whippets?
Hey, man.
Remember when we were kids and we were shoulder tap outside the grocery store and asked someone to buy you a case of beer, and then you'd slip them a 5 spot for doing it? Is the new shoulder tap outside the Harris Teeter, the Food Lion, the Kroger, the Wegmans for Whippets?
Could be.
That's like whatever. I'm drawing a blank on this. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on this. The when you go to a CVS and you buy out their over-the-counter medicine.
Oh, like ephedrine?
Yeah, that's in meth.
Yeah.
Where you're buying boxes of that, and now they have limitations on how many boxes you can buy. It's because of that.
Yeah.
It's because of that. Scott Aaronworth, I agree 100%. He says people will be using fake IDs to buy whipped cream. I 100% agree with him. He also says, I can only get my Crunchies on Amazon, Judah and Jerry. That's his favorite cereal. And he also says, what if they were having a lot of whipped cream for their ice cream sundaes, Jerry and Judah?
Yeah, well, that's what I said. Like, what if you're...
Scott Aaronworth is a criminal defense attorney in Virginia Beach. Aaronworth Law is who you call if you get in trouble in the Virginia Beach area. You call Scott Aaronworth and Aaronworth Law. Scott, are you going to have clients that got busted for Whippets and whipped cream? You would get them off, Scott. I know you would, my friend. I know you would. A couple more topics here. Judy, you're doing a great job. Do you want to offer any on the Italian Sub or Clifton Thursday music series?
Well, I happen to like the Fabio's Italian Sub, but I've never found anything to replace Maine Italians.
Okay.
If people out there haven't tried a Maine Italian,
no one listening to the show has tried an Italian Sub from Maine.
You never know.
Has anyone listening to the show tried an Italian
Scott Aaronworth goes all around the country finding the best food in the
go
world.
On. Tell us why you love the Italian Sub in Maine.
Actually, I've got a picture of it too.
Oh, you got it on screen?
Yeah.
Wow, look at you.
Amados. These subs are incredible.
Is it on screen now?
Yeah.
Look at the screen. Look at the screen. Everyone, look at the screen. This is Judah's favorite Italian Sub.
I think one of the biggest things is the bread. First, the
bread is crucial.
They cut it down the top, so it's like, you're not like tilting it on its side, and it's cut down the top, and everything is put in the middle. And the bread is so soft. And then when you have
the outer layer of the bread's got to be crunchy, though.
No,
dude.
No.
Here's the problem with
you
the Italian
are wrong.
I'll play devil's advocate with you. The Italian Sub of all the subs. The Italian is one of the juiciest of subs.
And you're saying
often they put the Italian dressing on it.
Yeah.
The Italian dressing can crumble the bread. A sub is dead to me if the bread crumbles and the ingredients collapse through the bread. That's a dead sub to me.
I've never had that problem with an Italian sub in Maine.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I've had that problem with Italian subs before, where the bread gets too soggy, the sandwich starts to collapse and crumble, and next thing you know, you're eating your sub with a fork off a plate.
Or everything is just falling out of the bag.
Yeah, that's a crappy sub for me.
My sister has ordered Amados to be delivered out of state before.
To California?
That good.
How long did delivery take?
I couldn't tell you.
She ordered a sub from Maine and sent it to California
Listen to this.
How much did she pay in shipping? Was that Mandy? That's got to be Mandy.
No, that was Trisha.
Trisha?
Invented in Portland. Listen to this.
Can you text Trisha and ask her how much she paid in shipping? Trisha, are you watching? How much did you pay in shipping, Trisha Wickhauer, to send Amados to California?
I don't remember if it was California, but I know she had one shipped. Listen to this. At Corsetti's Variety on Brighton Avenue, they still talk about the phone order placed a few months ago by a woman in Colorado. 24 regular Italians.
Is that Trisha?
No
she
oil.
Got 24 subs, Trisha?
No,
dang,
this is someone
Trisha?
else. But Amados is the gold standard. So good. In fact, I want to order one now.
Scott says, no, J-Dubs. I have never been to Maine for an Italian sub before.
Well, you're missing out, Scott.
Scott Airworth. And he says, preach, Jerry, about subs, my brother, preach. Wild Bill McChesney, I got that right, McChesney. Scott Airworth just shared the Amados link in the feed. Bill McChesney says, my wife worked for food services at the University of Virginia. They would store the whippets, the canister, upside down. They would go to use it and all the gas would be gone. After that, a guy came running out of the walk-in refrigerator with a face full of whipped cream.
What does them keeping them upside down have to do with...
What?
What does them keeping them upside down have to do with the...
That's a great question. Bill, why did they store the cartridges upside down? That's a great question. I don't know. Do you know? I don't know.
I'm not sure how that fits into the story.
I mean, it would definitely give it away when you're hitting whippets and you have whipped cream all over your face.
Well, yeah, that definitely gives it away that you've been doing something you probably shouldn't have.
That's like, I'll stop right there. I was going to go a little step further, but I'm choosing to stop. I think the best Italian sub is at Anna's number 9, Maury Avenue. Anna's number 5, on Maury Avenue. I've been enjoying this Italian sub for 22 years, as long as I've been in Charlottesville. I encourage you to give it a try. Anna's, Maury Avenue, Italian sub, less than $10. Go to the I Love CVille Instagram right now and you will see it. Jim Hingley, Commonwealth's attorney of Albemarle, he says his favorite is My Italian at Bell with a house-made hoagie roll. He also highlights...
is that the name of it? My Italian?
I think so.
Okay.
He also highlights the notorious PIG from Ivy Provisions. Charlottesville 29 did a nice write-up on that. The Italian at Anna's has a crunchy outer layer that holds the ingredients. It has a soft inner layer and has a homemade Italian dressing. And they do not skimp on the ingredients. And frankly, I think it's priced under $10. Let me see if I can confirm that. I mean, really, it could be 30% increased in price, but it is what it is. Let's see if I can find that menu. I'll give you that exact price. See if you can find it too. This is on the fly. Okay, I got it. That is... Oh my gosh. What do you think the cost of the Italian hoagie, the Italian sub at Anna's is? This can't be right. It's $5.75. That can't be right.
That's got to be for like a 6-inch.
Yeah, because I don't get the 6-inch. If it's $5.47, we got to tell them to raise the price.
Yeah.
Please. Please raise the price. This is a website. It's one of these third-party websites that have syndicated their menu and made it look like it's the Anna's page. Oftentimes, those third-party sites don't have updated content.
Right.
Which is so annoying. Bill says, right side up, the gas comes out before the whipped cream. You have to turn the can upside down to get the whipped cream out.
So that's why they stored them that way, so that it would always be ready for a foray into the joys of...
always ready for a party time in the walk-in. That's what it sounds like.
Yep.
All you have to do is lay on your back. At least you won't fall down and hit your head on the coffee table. Paul McCarter, anyone from further south will preach about Publix subs. Jen drives to Richmond for one. Publix, I grew up in Florida. Publix got the most market share in South Florida where I grew up. And he is 100% right, Paul McCarter, that Publix has fantastic subs. In fact, if you want to talk grocery store subs, the Danny's sub at Wegmans is dynamite. Have you had the Danny's sub at Wegmans?
Danny?
Yeah. It's named after one of the Wegmans kids is Danny Wegman.
Okay.
Danny's sub. Order the biggest one they got. It'll cost you about $11. Ask them to cut it in four sections.
What's in it?
It will legitimately feed you 2 meals, maybe 2.5 meals. The Danny's sub from Wegmans. And people want your take on the pizza at Amato's, J-Dubs.
People want my take on the pizza?
Yeah, well, you're talking Amato's. I've never been to Amato's.
I don't think I've ever gotten pizza there. I mean, that's not what... anytime I went to Amato's, it was Italian sandwiches.
Okay. The Danny's sub has thinly sliced...
I'm looking it up, too.
Thinly sliced salami, capicola, spicy ham with provolone cheese, organic green leaf lettuce. Organic green leaf lettuce?
What?
Organic green leaf lettuce.
What's
Do you
wrong
think
with
that's
that?
just marketing gimmick talk, or is it organic green leaf lettuce really sells sandwiches? It also has tomato slices, its signature sub roll. It's 750 calories per serving. If you get the bigger one, it's more. The Danny sub is my favorite grocery store sub. But Paul McCarter, you're exactly right.
It looks okay, but I'm not a fan of the hard crust.
The hard crust is cool. It's only on the outer layer.
I know that.
It's to maintain the integrity of the sandwich so the toppings don't crumble through the bread because of the moisture.
Still not a fan.
You don't like the crunch? I like it a little crunchy, so when you bite into it, it kind of scratches the top of your roof of your mouth.
Yeah, until it starts like shredding the top of the roof of your mouth.
Shred the top of your roof of your mouth. Did you find out from Trisha how much it costs to send the Amato sub?
No.
Maybe we can put that in the rundown tomorrow as one of the headlines. Trisha Wickhauer said it cost this much money to send a sub from Maine to California. Anything you want to close with? And I think once again you've done a damn good job. Jim Hingley, we appreciate your vote for the My Italian from Bell in Belmont. Bell in Belmont does a great job. The Shaughnessy brothers over there. Anything you want to add, Judah Wickhauer?
No, I think that's good. Definitely try the Amato's Italian sub.
Thursday, the music series.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. I don't know if I'll be able to make it, but if I do, I'm looking forward to seeing Coda and Marie. We've had them, and I can't remember. I think we had some of their band members from Chamomile and Whiskey
we had
on
Coda
the show.
And Marie here.
Yeah, I know.
It was you, me,
I know,
Coda,
but
Marie, Brian Combs from Pro Renata, and Rod Phillips from Remax.
Yeah.
You were directing the show. I was here. Coda saw the full bar in the studio, immediately grabbed the bottle of bourbon, put it on the table here in the studio, and next thing I know, we're doing the talk show while drinking bourbon at 12:30 in the afternoon. That's literally what happened.
Those are good shows.
That's literally what happened. Thank God it was a Friday. Coda is back on Wednesday with Nick of the Clifton. Thursday at 5:30. I'd get there at 5. You should check out the Clifton in Keswick for a summer music series every Thursday that is going to be off the chain.
Yeah.
It's going to be off the chain. Mm-hmm. You may get Judah Wickhauer to autograph your poster of him.
I'll try to bring them.
Bring a Sharpie. Bring a Sharpie.
Bring a Sharpie.
Judah B. Wickhauer is turning into an integral aspect of the show. He did a job well done once again. For Judah Wickhauer, my name is Jerry Miller, and this is the I Love CVille Show on a Monday. Thank you kindly for watching us. So long, everybody.